Okay, can everyone hear me first? Hopefully my computer doesn't shut down or freeze up on me today. So, as Megan said, I'm Danielle Luebke. It's actually Wapaton. I know we have some really weird names of towns here in North Dakota. And I do work out of the Current Tech Center out of Wapaton. And I would just like to share what I do for my K-12 program. Both of my schools are less than 250 students total K-12, but I think everything that I'm going to talk about today can be adapted to bigger schools, smaller schools, whatever. So it's more, and I'm going to talk about what North Dakota does. I think a lot of it can be adapted to different states. And so if you have any questions, I do have my chat up. You can write in the chat, or you can just stop me and say, hey, I have a question, and we'll just get started. Maybe. Okay, oh, there we go. So I actually started out as a psychology major and a child development minor, and then I went to get my master's in counselor education. I started out in mental health counseling because I didn't have a teaching degree, and in North Dakota at the time, you had to have a teaching background, and so I didn't have that, and I was like, well, I'm not going to spend another 4 years in school, being that I've already been in school for 6. So I went to the mental health counseling. About a year after I graduated, they actually changed the North Dakota Century Code, and you could take a couple extra classes and become a school counselor on top of that. So when I started to work at my schools, I didn't want to do career development. Honestly, I look back and I'm like, well, that was stupid. I wanted to do the personal social kind of stuff with my students, and I didn't want to do the college prep. I didn't want to do the job prep. Like, that was the farthest thing. I'm like, I just want to do counseling. That's all I want to do. But after a few years, let's see if it'll go. After a few years, the career development piece has become my favorite. So I don't know how much you guys know about the school counseling domains, but there's an academic, personal, social, and then there's the career domain that we have our standards that set into them. And probably 2 years in, I actually figured out that if you don't do well academically and your personal social life isn't together, you're probably not going to end up in a great career, and you're not going to end up doing very well. And so I feel like the personal, social, and the academic kind of underlie the career development, and the career development is kind of the cherry on the top to the school counseling domain. So I feel like my job, and when I first started, because I had never been in the school, it was like climbing up Mount Kilimanjaro. It was such a huge learning curve for me, and I'm still learning. I feel like sometimes I'm the newbie, but with this is my upcoming 8th year there. I'm the longest one at our center, and so I try to guide everybody else, but sometimes that's hard. So I think part of my job as a career development counselor is to expose my students to as many opportunities as possible. Like I said, both of my schools are less than 250 students, and so we are a very rural state. Fargo is about an hour away, which that's bigger, but both the towns are less than probably 500 people. So we live in a very rural area, and so it's kind of up to me to expose my students to as much as possible. So we'll get started. I'm going to put all of my resources, and I will put them in a Google Drive. They're in my OneDrive right now, but I'll switch them over to a Google Drive, and I'll send that to Megan if you want to share that. So, okay. So like I said, I didn't want to do career development. That was the farthest thing from my mind. But I usually start career development in my elementary students after Christmas, and I really look forward to it. I really look forward to teaching them, and I look forward to getting them excited about thinking about jobs. And I always tell my students, like, you can change your mind from now until next year and the next year and the next year. And so I really like to explore careers with students and get them as much exposure. So some of the things that I do in kindergarten, we read a lot of books. We talk about identifying, like, whose tools are these, whose hat are these. Those are super cheap books. I think I got them off of Amazon. And those are all really good places to start with kindergartners. They get into it. They love, and I have some activities that go cut and paste things. Again, it's just getting their minds thinking. And sometimes my favorite thing is when I go around the classroom and I ask them what their parents do. And it's always amazing to me. Like, some of them know, some of them don't. But it's fun, and so I like to kind of broaden their horizons. This is one of my students. I do a career portfolio, K through 6, and I just put stuff in there that is career related, and then they get it back when they're seniors in high school or when they graduate. And so it's just kind of a fun way to look back of, oh my gosh, I can't believe I wanted to be a ballerina. I had a student, he actually wanted to be a pizza ranch worker. And so it's just fun for them to go back and like, oh, where was my mind when I was in kindergarten? So I take a picture of them in kindergarten and first grade, and then I put that in their career folders just so they have something to kind of go back and look at. Maybe. Okay, well, my slide is not moving. Oh, I'll get it. There we go. So in first grade, I kind of do the same thing, except I introduce a book called Career Critters. And this is a really great resource for elementary kids. It talks about the 16 career clusters in little storybooks that they can follow along and read. And so in first grade, that's a good thing so that they can, they're learning to read and they can follow along with me and we talk about it. And it breaks it down and they understand that. So that would probably be one of my top 5 favorite books that I have. And I'm not even going to lie, a lot of my resources aren't original. They're not mine. I take them off of Teachers Pay Teachers because they have a lot of great resources too. And we were always taught in grad school to not reinvent the wheel. And so if somebody already has something out there and I like it, I'm going to use it. So in second grade, I kind of do the same thing. We do career charades. I just have a deck of cards that has different careers on it, and they act it out, and they absolutely love it. And I think for them to get their minds going, and sometimes they don't know what the job is, but then we talk about that, and I help them out, and so they have a really good time with that. I do the career critters in first and second grade just to kind of move on. I do some of the more difficult to understand clusters in second grade. Then in first grade, I do like egg, health careers, some of those careers that they might know at that level. And so the picture here is Pause and Jobland. I know you can purchase this. The Bank of North Dakota actually purchased this for all counselors in North Dakota to use. So we are very, very gracious for that. It's just a fun little, you go in and Pause shows you jobs. It actually has a career cluster finder relevant to their age. And it just says, do you like math? Yes or no. And so they go through that and then they get their cluster and they can explore jobs that way. And so I use that in probably third, fourth, and fifth grade. After that, it's a little bit young for my sixth graders. So we also have Career Jeopardy. I think I have a picture of that here shortly. So again, it's just getting their minds thinking. And sometimes when we do the Pause and Jobland, it's fun for me to watch, and sometimes I feel a little lazy just having them on the computer, but it's fun to watch them and be like, oh my gosh, I never knew that a construction person did this, or I never knew that I could be an airline pilot. And so it's really fun for me to just be able to walk around and get them excited and have the light bulb go off, I guess. All right. Oh, I went backwards. Sorry. So fourth grade, my kids are getting a little bit older, and so I do what's called the Real Game. I don't have the subscription, and sometimes I don't love curriculum, and so I pull what I feel is relevant. And I actually this past year, I thought about taking the Real Game out because I don't love it. But I had kids come in, like my 7th and 8th graders, are like, oh, do you still do that where we get to put our houses on the maps and we get jobs? And I'm like, yeah. And so I actually kept it in just because of the student feedback I got. You can purchase that, and they have I think it's 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, all the way up till seniors. They have different levels to that. And I wish I could tell you the cost of it. I just have the curriculum, and like I said, I kind of pull what I want to do, and I don't do the full thing. I should, but I'm very limited in my time. So I do what suits me. So in 5th grade, again, they're getting a little bit older. I do what's called the world of work, where we explore jobs, and they find out if they're a good match or not a good match for the job, and then we talk about the type of job it is. And sometimes they have students who they'll be a good match. Like my first year doing this, I had a young gentleman who got a match to be a massage therapist. And he's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be a massage therapist. But then it opens that conversation up, and well, it's not necessarily the massage therapist, it's about the type of job it is, and you're probably a good people job person, even though you don't want to be a massage therapist. And we also have the conversation of it's okay for boys to be massage therapists, and it's okay for girls to be plumbers. And so it just opens a lot of conversations to be able to have that and explore those kind of things. This is the Career Jeopardy. And you can, if you Google Career Jeopardy, it will come up. Steve Beutler, he used to be, I think he was on the policy committee for ACT for many, many years. He actually retired 2 years ago. He's from North Dakota. He was a career development counselor up in Minot. He actually created this. And so I do this with my 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, and it's kind of their level. Some of them are really hard. And it's just a fun way, interactive way to talk about those jobs. And so that's something that I do with them. I continue the world of work from 5th to 6th grade, and so then they get a better idea of where they're at. The career game is a booklet. It's kind of that self-exploration. And then at the end, it's a survey, and it tells them like what type of job they are, and they relate it to colors. And so that's kind of fun. The jobs life budget, and I'm getting more into kind of real life stuff in the 6th grade just because they're getting to that age where they should be talking about real life stuff. We talk about budgets, and the jobs life budget is actually one of the very first things that I purchased on Teachers Pay Teachers. And it goes through, and they're supposed to pick their own job, but I don't like that because obviously they're going to pick the highest paying job. So I have them draw a card, and it's anywhere from a McDonald's worker to a banker. Obviously, the McDonald's worker makes less than the banker. And then it goes through, and they get to pick a house, and they get to pay their taxes, and they get to pick out health insurance. And it just opens that conversation piece of this is real life, and this is why I should probably think about a job and moving forward. And I always tell them, working at McDonald's is a great starting job. I'm not saying anything bad about McDonald's, but I hope that all of you strive to work for a better career path. So, I don't know why this isn't working. So my 7th graders, we actually, and it's hard for me because I'm not a regular class. And so sometimes it's really hard for me to get the kids engaged. Like, well, are we getting graded on it? Well, no, but this is also important. So in 7th grade, in North Dakota, we are actually required in 7th or 8th grade and 9th or 10th grade to give some sort of career assessment. And I usually do the career cluster survey, and then we have a conversation about that. So I do the color quiz with them, and that's the Myers-Briggs, and it kind of gives them the type of person they are, who they would be good to work with. I also have them research a career at that time. After we do the cluster finder, I have them research a career and make a poster, and then they present it to their classmates, just so their classmates can see all these other different jobs. And it's fun for me to see what they are wanting to be. And so again, we're just having those conversations of you don't have to be a nurse, you don't have to be a doctor. And I get really excited when my kids say, oh, I want to be an auto tech, or I want to be a truck driver. And I get excited about that kind of stuff because we need more of those in the world. So again, the Are You Ready, kind of with the jobs in Pawland, the Are You Ready is North Dakota specific. It's through ZAP, Z-A-P, out in California. And I don't know if anybody else uses a program similar to this, but I know there's lots of different programs out there, but this is something, it's all career related. Are you ready? They can search colleges, they can search careers, there's a lot of information in there, and so I use it more in the middle school because by the time I get to the high school, my students are sick of me talking about it. So in middle school and high school, I do more of the soft skills, team building, to kind of get them prepared. And we talk about why is communication important, why is being on time important. And so just having those conversations again, and I know I've said that probably 3 or 4 times already, but just having those conversations of why this is important and why we're doing it. And so that's kind of how I relate it, even though they don't get a grade from me. So again, the picture in North Dakota, I have to say, I hate to brag about North Dakota, but we have a pretty awesome CTE staff at the state. And this is a magazine, so it's similar to the Are You Ready program, but it's in a magazine form. So if your computer lab is down, you can grab Career Outlook magazines. And we get these free through the CTE staff in North Dakota. And I can get the website for that too, because you can download that. But the information is North Dakota specific. But again, just a great resource, and I'm sure there's other resources out there, but I do use this in the classroom. We talk about it, we go through it, we explore it. It has all the 16 career clusters in it. And so in 8th grade, I started introducing that. And so we're just kind of building from kindergarten, just talking about basic jobs, to 6th grade, where we start getting into the real life stuff. And now I feel like I'm building all of my program from kindergarten up, and I would love it to be more fluid, but I feel like I'm still working on that. So I do another budgeting activity with the 8th graders, and this is a little bit more in depth. They actually get to go in and they get to look at cars. At that time, they're kind of thinking about the cars. And I think if you would Google that too, that's one of Steve Beutler's too. Again, like I said, I don't want to reinvent the wheel, and I do use a lot of Steve stuff, and I do use a lot of Teachers Pay Teachers. So in 9th grade, again, my school is small. I have the capabilities to do stuff like that. Up in Fargo, they have a career expo, and it's just finding in your area what's available. And I know this picture is kind of hard, but my students get to go to a career expo. They bring in, and you can see there's like trucks, they have fire trucks, they've brought in planes, and the kids actually, there's cranes. I don't think you can see the picture, but there's one where they get to operate, I don't even know what it's called, an excavator, and they have to lift Santa out of the chimney and put him in the other chimney. And the kids get to do this. It's not the workers that do it. The kids actually get to go on the equipment, and so they get to start exploring it. And I wish my kids could go every year, but 9th grade seems to be that age where they're still open-minded enough to be able to explore. And I always tell them, make sure you get in and start getting in and going into the things you want to see, because the time goes so quickly, and then at the end they're like, no, we don't want to leave, and I'm like, well, we have to. So usually when we do that, I take my kids on an industry tour along with going, so we kind of make a day of it, and then we go have lunch and go to the Career Expo in Fargo. We have I've done the past couple of years, we've done at the renewable ethanol plant. And so again, it's just finding those resources that are available in your area to utilize, and they have been awesome. Like my kids will leave there with pop and candy and stuff like that, and so it's fun for them to see the opportunities that are in our area, because I think so many times students think that they have to leave Hankinson or Wyoming to get a good job, and when in reality there's really good jobs locally. And so that's kind of, again, what I try to do is I try to expose them to as much as I can, whether it's locally or far away. And so that's kind of been a fun thing. I have a link to the Kahoot, so hopefully that works coming up. Oh, yeah, okay, so I'll just show that really quick. Hopefully, let's see. Maybe. So I actually created I like to be as interactive as I can. I created a Kahoot, and if you Google career clusters, it will come up. And so I use this with my students. They love Kahoot. It's more of a competition, but I feel like there's still learning things along with learning about the career clusters. So just some of the questions, you know, like, what is a bachelor's degree? Because some of them don't know. They don't know what an associate's degree is. They don't know the certificate programs. And so this is just another way to start having those conversations. And I think, oh yeah, so here on question 12 or question 11, it starts emergency management director, funeral attendant, barber, nanny. And then, so they have 4 career clusters that they pick from, and they have to figure out which cluster that goes into. So just another fun, interactive thing that I do. Let's see if I can get back to the PowerPoint. Maybe. There we go. Fabulous. So this past year, when I first started, we used to only take our seniors to the college fair. And by the time my students are seniors, I feel like they are already checked out, done. They know which college they're going to, and so it's almost too late. So my principal and I at the time, we decided to drop that a little bit lower and take our 10th and 11th graders. The seniors can go if they want, but usually they don't. And so we dropped that to our 10th graders because I feel like as sophomores, they still have a little bit of an open mind, and they are willing to listen and they're willing to talk. And when they go there, I actually make them do an assignment, and they have to fill things out, and they get really mad at me. But I want them to get something out of it, and I want them to, instead of just walking around with their friends, I want them to actually go and visit with the booths and talk to them about their interests and talk to them about what their opportunities are. So again, 10th grade, so I do a budgeting in 6th, 8th, and 10th grade. And this one is even more real life, where they get a family situation. You're a family of 2, you make this much money, and they have to figure out and stay within their budget, and then they roll the dice and different things come up as they go on through their life. So just another interactive thing, and it's fun too. And then we have a conversation after all the activities I do. I always try to either debrief or just talk to them about, you know, what was the purpose of this? Why are we doing this? Especially when I do the soft skills and team building. I really enjoy doing stuff like that because it's fun for them, but they're also learning. Sometimes when teachers walk by my classroom, when I'm doing like team building or whatever, I think they're like, what is she doing in there? Is she even teaching? But they're still learning those skills, that teamwork, being able to work with people that you don't necessarily get along with. And so I do a lot of that because that's incorporating all of that. So this past year, so the 2 pictures are of my, local schools, the 5 counselors that work at the Southeast region. Last year, we actually wrote a grant to help expose our students to non-traditional careers. There's money available here in North Dakota to do that. So we wrote a grant to go to North Dakota State College of Science, which is like the closest 2-year school to us. So we have been collaborating a little bit more with them. So the top picture is my wonderful young ladies. They were in construction, and they actually got to go on the roof and like nail shingles in. And then the bottom picture is of my male students, of the local students, and they got to go to like pharmacy tech, they got to go to OTA, they got to listen to a social worker talk, and so again, it's just exposing them. And the great thing about science schools, we have a really good partnership. We work to build that up. They are willing to let us bring kids on campus anytime. And the cool thing that they did is they had, so within the program, say construction, they had the female construction students do the presentation. And so it's showing them that, oh, hey, I can do this. I can do this. And so that's just another, like I said, finding the resources that are in your area and utilizing them to your advantage. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I wasn't partnered with science schools. So just a good opportunity for my students. I actually just submitted the grant yesterday for next year. So hopefully we get that again, because my students loved it. And it was just a really good opportunity to, again, expose them to different careers and different opportunities that are local for them. Because a lot of times my students say, I'm going to NDSU, which is a 4-year school in North Dakota, when they don't even know the opportunities that they have, 25 miles away from us. And so I started, 1 year I took my freshmen on a tour of campus because none of them had ever been on a 2-year campus. And so just that, getting their minds thinking, and like they didn't know NDSCS, they actually have dorms. And so my freshmen at the time, they were like, oh, I didn't know they had dorms. And so giving them all the information that they need and that they can use so that they can make the best career decision possible when they're ready. So this past year we took, so 11th grade, they have a lot of testing in North Dakota, unfortunately. I utilized a career cluster Kahoot. These pictures are from, we took our juniors to, they call it IDB Day, Imagine It, Design It, Build It Day. And it was everything to do with construction. Those are two young ladies working on an electrical, whatever, I don't even know what it's called, electrical box. And then on the top, they're working with land surveying. Again, I don't know how I would expose my students to land surveying or electrical if I didn't have this opportunity at NDSCS. You know, I'm sure I could find an electrician in the area, but I want my students to be aware of all of the opportunities that they have so close to home. 12th grade, like I said, these are my seniors from this past year. This was after we toured Giant Seeds here in Wahpeton, we went to Manufacturing Day where we went to 4 different manufacturing places and they got to tour. And I know there's different, if you Google Manufacturing Day, you can find a local Manufacturing Day close to you. We actually got on board probably 3 years ago with this. And I would like to take my juniors because, like I've said, my seniors are already, at this point in time, my seniors are ready to go and they are checked out. And so I'd like to take my juniors to be able to open their minds a little bit, but they haven't allowed us to do that yet. And so I'm okay taking my seniors because they're still getting that exposure to different opportunities. And I think a lot of times students think that manufacturing is dirty and gross and it's grimy and grungy, when in reality, when we went to Dakota Seeds, we had to wear hairnets and like things on our shoes. And so it's, again, the exposure to those myths of manufacturing isn't dirty and dingy anymore. It's clean, well lit, and you can have a great career at some of these places. So I also do a college application day. I'm still working on those soft skills to pay the bills, resume writing. We do that as a senior. So that's kind of my flow from kindergarten through 12th grade. And the great thing about being in a small district is I get to follow my students all the way through. And so it's fun for me to be able to see how their minds change and how they progress through time. So here's some of the team building soft skills. And again, I wish I could take credit for creating some of these things, but I can't. I beg, borrow, and steal. I do a toothpick factory. We build paper towers. My freshmen build paper towers. They just get a stack of paper, and then they have to build the tallest freestanding structure. And again, I'm teaching them being able to work with other people, being able to problem solve, that critical thinking kind of stuff. And so, but they think they're just having fun. When in reality, there's a lesson, and then we process that after, and it's fun, and they get to knock down their paper towers. And some of them, I've had them from like the floor to the ceiling. It's amazing what kids come up with. I don't know if you know the escape rooms. The breakout boxes, it's a box where the kids have to break into it. They get clues. I actually have one of them. I'm thinking about ordering another one. And so that's just another way that they are using those critical thinking skills. I've had kids like just completely sit on the floor and just give up. And so then we talk about that and be like, well, would you do this at a job? And so just kind of those things. The picture, those are my 6th graders. They were building spaghetti marshmallow towers, I should say. And again, we were outside this day, and it was a little bit breezy because in North Dakota it's breezy like 300 days a year. And they're like, Mrs. Luebke, it is so windy. And I'm like, well, when you go to build a building, it's not always going to be perfect conditions, so figure it out. And so again, we're talking about those things that are real life and trying to get them engaged in that. So I know I went too far, sorry. Back. North Dakota, like I said, North Dakota State College of Science is our local 2-year. They have a lot of CTE programs, and I'm really glad that we were able to partner with them because it's a really good pipeline. I probably have, and I know this sounds crazy, on any given year, I probably have 40 to 60% of my students go here, which is probably like 8 to 10 kids out of a class of 20. And so I want them to, A, two-year colleges are cheaper, and B, there's a lot of opportunities. And so we actually, so where I work at the Career and Tech Center, we offer construction, ag, culinary, health careers, and auto. And so with the non-traditional grant that we wrote for our sophomores, we actually are pipelining where the careers that the non-traditional careers that they get exposed to are the opportunities that they can do at the center. So it's kind of that pipeline of continuing even from high school on to college. And so we last year, let me think, so our males went to health careers and culinary, so we offer those at our center, and then our females went to construction and auto, which we also offer at our center. And so our goal is to increase our non-traditional enrollment in our own programs at the Southeast Region Career and Tech Center, but also to get some of those kids interested in those programs at Science School. So it is local. Again, finding those things where you can get kids, and they always want kids on campus. They are more than willing, if I want to take my kids for a tour, they're more than willing to work with us and do special days. And so Science School, they have what they call visit days. And they have all sorts of, they have a dental day, they have a diesel day, they have a John Deere day, they have a international day. And they love when kids come on campus, but we're kind of trying to create a continuum of, okay, 9th grade, our kids are going to go to Ag Day, and 10th grade, they have the Flip Day. Well, that's what we call our non-traditional, or the exposure to non-traditional careers flip. And so they get exposed to those. And then in 11th grade, they go to the Imagine It, Design It, Build It Day. And then in 12th grade, they do Manufacturing Day. So it's kind of, and they actually tour the manufacturing stuff on Science School, and then they get to go see it in action out in the real world. So again, I'm just building that continuum of, okay, these are things that I want them to know, because in a small community, it's hard to show somebody land surveying, or it's hard to show them the opportunities that they can have. So along with, I know community service is not really, it is career development, but it's not. This past 2 years ago, we actually have our new ESSA accountability for North Dakota. As a part of that, we are required to do 25 hours of community service by the state, or it's one of the options that you can do. And we actually started doing community service probably 5 years ago with my students. And it has become one of my favorite days, in getting my students out in the community to see and give back. So again, partnerships. I think partnerships are so very important. I partnered with the United Way. They actually do a day of caring in Wapton. And we started local in Hankinson, where we go out in the community. But then I said to this person, I said, I want my juniors and seniors to be able to come and experience the actual day of caring in Wapton. And so she's like, yep, we can do it. And so we've been doing that for 2 or 3 years now. And so my 7th through 10th graders stay on campus or in the town, and they do things in town. And then my 11th and 12th graders go to Wapton. So my 7th graders, I have them work with the younger kids doing a project, or one year they read to them. And so they're still getting that interaction with other people and getting that sense of giving back and that sense of fulfillment. Grades 8 through 10, they do projects out in the community. They've done anything from painting curbs to raking, cleaning fire trucks. One year we painted the fire station. And so it's giving back and exposing them to all of these different opportunities. So the past 2 years, 3 years, my juniors and seniors actually go to Wapton. They participate, they work in an assisted living facility, and they work with the Red River Human Service Center, which is, and I'm probably not going to be politically correct here, it's working with the educable handicapped people. And it's like kind of a day program for them. And we're in Hankinson, we don't have that opportunity for my students, only because we're a small community. And so to see my kids interacting, and usually they're super scared at first, but once they start getting it, and again, it's just kind of getting them used to that, oh, it's not just my small town of Hankinson. There's a whole big wide world out there that I'm going to have to interact with. And so it's a lot of fun for me to be able to see the light bulb go off, and like just their smiles on their faces and the smiles on the residents, I guess you could call them. I do have some pictures on the next slide. So the top picture is my seniors from 2 years ago, after we had got done. And the apartments we go clean are low income. And they get to go in, and they might be shut-in adults, but it's just kind of, again, exposing them and having them help. And so if you see the picture on the lower left-hand side, that is probably my all-time favorite picture that I've ever taken. The young gentleman that my student is working with, so Race worked with him as a junior, and then he came up to Race and he's like, I remember you from last year. And Race was just like, oh my gosh, how does he remember me? Like, that was a whole year ago. And so again, I don't have this opportunity to expose my students to in our small community. So I feel like it's very vital to get them out in the real world, and get them some of these experiences. So that's been a great addition to my program. It's a lot of work to coordinate, but it's really good for the students to be able to say on their college application, I have 25 hours of community service. There's so many scholarships out there that relate to community service, and if you have 100 hours, you already get this much money. So again, it's just kind of setting my kids up for success and being able to make the best of their lives and have well-rounded adults when they graduate. And I talked really fast. That's usually an hour presentation. So like I said, I'm going to put all my resources together, Megan, and I will put them in a Google Drive, and I'll send you the link. And feel free to share it. I don't care. I just ask that you download it and don't like change. I can put it to where you can't edit it. You have to download it and then edit it. But like I said, I just want to give people an idea of, I think sometimes people are like, oh, you do career development in kindergarten? I'm like, yep, we just talk about careers, and we talk about jobs, and we talk about what our parents do, and we talk about all the different jobs in the school. And so it's just building and having them like know that there's different careers out there, and they don't have to be a doctor, and they don't have to be a nurse. And I think, unfortunately, so many times parents tend to persuade their kids to go to the four-year school, when in reality, that's not what the kid wants. They want to be happy. I've had to work with parents where they, oh, do I see a chat? Okay. I seen it pop up. I'll send the link to the Kahoot. I'll just respond to the email. And it might not, I'll double check and see. So, that's my program in a nutshell. Like I said, I didn't want to do career development, but I feel like I've built my program up to be something that I'm proud of. And it's a lot of fun for me to be able to help these kids out. And when a kid, and I know 99.9% of kids get accepted to science school, but when I see a kid come into my office and they say, Mrs. Luebke, I got accepted to school, it's so rewarding to know that I had a little piece in that, and I had a little help in that. And so I guess if I can give you one piece of advice, is just to give them all of the exposure that you can, and to use your local resources, use your industry, use your advisory boards, use your colleges. They want the kids to come on campus, and they're more than willing. And so I guess by partnerships also, I have been able to get my kids out, and I guess not in the real world, but I've been able to help them out and get them exposed like that. So does anybody have, I know the Kahoot, I will double check that one. Does anybody else have any questions? Like I said, I know I talked pretty fast.
I don't know if you can hear me, can you?
Yep, I can.
Oh, okay. I wasn't quite sure with how the mute button worked. I was sending you a message, but I just assumed tell you in person. My thought was, like, can we clone you? Because
can you?
Such a great
I
job.
don't know. I think that's maybe a possibility, but you know,
You
I'm
know,
more than willing.
I
Like if you have, oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I was just going to say, I often tell people, you talk to a junior in high school and say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're often faced with a confused look. But when you ask kindergartners what they want to be when they grow up, 100% of them have an answer.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
might be
absolutely.
cowboy,
Yeah.
it might be cowboy or police officer, but I absolutely agree with you that starting at that point is a great idea. And by the way, I'm Jerry Elner. I'm the national director over at Universal Technical Institute.
Okay.
Um, just to introduce myself, I'm a big advocate for career and technical education. And last year, actually the year before, I was the ACTE champion, just as a result of my advocacy for
Okay.
career and technical education. The only suggestion I would have would be to consider changing the word college to post-secondary school.
Yep.
You know, knowing today that only 20% of the job market requires a bachelor's degree, sometimes
Yeah.
the term college, they don't, you talked about plumbers and carpentry, and those are wonderful fields, but sometimes the word college confuses the students because they think of trade schools.
Yep. Yep. I agree with that. And I think it's for me one of the questions that I got asked when I applied for my fellowship was, what is one of the biggest obstacles you face? And for me, one of the biggest obstacles I face is that those myths of two-year colleges and like CTE courses and construction and auto, and so it's a battle for me, and it's changing my own language. Like, you know, it used to be vocational education, and now it's, you know, career and technical education, and so changing parents' minds too is a big thing. And just advocating for my program and advocating for my students is the way that I can do that. So
Boy, I agree with you completely. Thank you very much for all the work and effort you put into this.
thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so I'm gonna. So from Nancy, I'm gonna share your question. You said, "How do you include CTSOs in your work?" I actually don't have CTSOs. Um, so Hankinson. Again, it's that battle I just talked about. I have a business teacher who I have been trying to get her program to be a North Dakota CTE program, but she's like, well, what's in it for me? I'm like, well, it's not what's it's about for you. It's about for what's the students. So honestly, I don't. I personally don't work with CTSOs in Hankinson. We don't have CTSOs, unfortunately. We're looking at getting egg, and then we would have FFA. In Wymer, we actually do have a really strong FFA program. And so personally, I don't do CTSOs, unfortunately. So I maybe should look at that. But yeah, so any other questions?
Okay, Danielle, this is Megan again. Thank you so much. If there's no more questions, I just want to thank you so much for your time and your great presentation. I think we all agree that it was wonderful and some great areas that hopefully we'll all use in practice. And again, this whole presentation will be posted online and sent to all educators in action. And whatever else, Danielle, you want me to share with the group, feel free to send along.
Yep, I'll put it in a Google Drive.
Perfect. And then as a last reminder, next month, the next virtual discussion will be on August 19th at 3:30 on engaging instruction for high quality CTE programs. So I hope you all will be able to join, and I hope you all will take a few minutes to visit our blog and contribute to the blog. Otherwise, thank you so much for your amazing presentation again, Danielle, and I will be in touch with everyone shortly. And thank you everyone for your time in joining today's presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.